let's prune this vine together. As you'll see, it is not always simple to prune vines, but following what we've spoken about in the previous videos, you should have a good idea of what to do. Now, if we start with the left-hand side, we need to locate our spur position first. We'll zoom in. So there it is right there, the little stub with two shoots coming out of it. As you would know, they have used bud 0 right back here and bud 1 to create that spur position. Now, this one has been quite healthy. They're both quite healthy. And then up here, last year, they have chased a fruiting cane off the previous cane. So there it is. Now, I would say that last year that this was probably quite a weak vine because they've left a bud 0 and bud 1, maybe because the spur position cane wasn't very thick and they wanted to be safe, and they've gone for a one bud or something like that, and it's plugged in and it's beefed out. And then they've chased the cane because they didn't have a spur position last year to take one from. So to prune the left-hand side this year, what I'm going to do is take the spur position again. Now I can see that the bud orientation is kind of shifted to the sides, but inside here, just there, is bud 1 and this is bud 2. I'm going to take that again this year because bud 1 is going to be pointed in line with the vine row that way and the cordon wire. It is quite low, but that is a good one. And then bud 2 we should be able to pull around. Now we then need to choose a fruiting cane now that we have our spur position. Spur position is always the most important thing to lock in first because that is going to be for next year and next year and next year. And you want to start that branching process. So make sure you're picking good spur positions, following the sap flow up the vine and not coming out of the top of the crown or anything silly like that. Just follow that sap flow and you should have a pretty healthy spur year on year. Now, our options to wrap down on this cane would be either to take this shoot, which is the fruiting cane that we've left from our renewal spur, or we need to chase one down. Now, what I'm going to do is wrap down this fruiting cane from our renewal spur just to there. It's quite a drop between the wire and the spur position, so I might knock a few buds off in here because they're going to be a little bit useless to us and we want them on the fruiting cane on the wire so we can shoot thin correctly and wire lift correctly. And then everything else I'm going to knock down. Now, chasing a cane would also be an option if I wanted to remove this one instead and chase one down. But realistically, I need to chase this one here because the one underneath is a bit too thin and spindly. So I'd have to do maybe 8 buds off that and then chase it down onto the wire. So let's go ahead and make those cuts. I'm going to keep this one. I'm going to remove this one and I can remove it back here. So this is now 3-year-old wood and I want to leave enough room for it to dry back here so it doesn't affect this wood in here, because if I cut it down there, it definitely doesn't have enough room to dry back without destroying this spur position. So 3 times the diameter, which would be roughly 2 centimeters, so 6 centimeters in length to dry back. There we go, that will dry back nicely. This stubble wood in the middle can do the same thing. That's useless to us. We do not want a spur position off that, so we can take it back with enough wood to dry back into the main trunk. 6 centimeters again, it's fine. Great, so those 2 will dry back this year, and then next year we can cut them off, cleaning them up better. You can get rid of the wood we don't want up here anymore. Cut that out, strip it out as you go, and then we want to select our cane to wrap down. So there it is. We can put that on the wire to there. I'm going to cut that bud. Cutting it off at the correct angle. So you've got a stub at the end, and then cutting all of the tendrils and shoots off. Now that cane's going to get wrapped down this year, which is nice. We've got a good spur position, and then we just want to remove any dry wood that's already on the vine, just to clean it up, get a good bit of airflow in there. Lovely. Now we go to the right hand side. Now this one is tricky once again. So here's our spur position, and as you can see, the underneath bud has failed, and the top bud, which is our fruiting cane, has been successful. That's pretty unfortunate because it is temporarily not working well for our branching system. Now, we have a couple options. One, we can either wrap this down and we can hope that these buds will burst and then we start branching out of that, and it'll have one crisscross in it, which is fine. Or we can create a new spur position from a water shoot that's down here somewhere, such as this one, and we start pruning off that and create a branch off that, because we haven't already got a proper branching system happening. Or we can take a spur and take a cane to wrap down and chase one off here, but there is none to chase, so there's only really one option. So what I'm going to do is remove this old wood because we don't want it anymore. I'm going to take this one as a spur. I've got bud 2 pointing inwards, bud 1 is at the back. I'm going to remove that because it's pointing directly to the mid-row in the wrong way. Bud 2 is pointing inwards and bud 3 is pointing up, so this will be our spur position next year, and that is our cane to wrap down. And then for the following year, our old spur position is right here. I'm going to wrap this cane down for fruit this year, so we counted out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 buds is sufficient. Cut all the tendrils off. And then this old fruiting cane that has nothing on it, we can remove that. And I'm going to remove it just under this shoot here. Now that's got about 6 centimeters to dry back, so it's about a 2 centimeter diameter. So that'll dry back nicely, and then next year I can lop it off. We're going to wrap this fruiting cane down. And then we have a spur position to restart our branching and a cane to wrap down for fruit this year. And then the last thing you need to do is just go over and knock off with good crown cuts any water shoots that are coming out and any dry wood that you want to remove as well. There we go. It's not a beautiful vine, certainly not, but we've got a spur position for renewal next year. We've got a fruiting cane. We've got a decent, more decent position on this side with a spur and a fruiting cane. And then the final thing, just make sure you look on the back, because there's always going to be something hiding. So there's a sucker that I've cut off with a crown cut. So just to run through that real quickly, find your spurs from last year. If you can spur, prune and wrap down off those again, fantastic. If you can't, you need to select a new spur position and a new fruiting cane off 2-year-old wood. Spur can come off a water shoot, it doesn't matter because we're not aiming to get fruit off that. Sort that out, reset your structure if you need to, and then strip everything out, take off dead wood, take off water shoots and anything you don't need. And make sure that your new spur positions are good healthy canes. Pencil thickness is the goal. If you're doing less than pencil thickness, 1 bud, spur them because they will fail.